thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. We really at API are very interested in communicating what the facts are in terms of energy, and then move forward in terms of what we should do about it. Because unfortunately you have here in this town too many debates over the facts. People want their own facts, and that doesn't work out very well. It's okay for you to have your own views on policy, but it'd be good to start with real hard facts. And so, well, the oil and gas industry for a long time has been trying to point out that we are an important component of the U.S. economy. Very few people understand that 9.2 million Americans owe their jobs to the oil and gas industry. You're either direct or indirectly employed, and so it's a large industry, and we feel it's an important industry in the economy. It's roughly 7.5% of gross domestic product, and so it is a large industry that is vital in terms of our economy, and we'd like to do a lot more. We would like to see more production of oil and gas in this economy. We think that producing more oil and gas in this country would be a win-win-win circumstance. It'll generate jobs, which are highly needed, of course. It'll produce revenue for the U.S., for the federal, state, local governments, and it'll improve the trade deficit. Because those are three key things that we think could happen if we're allowed to produce more oil and gas.
If you look at the Obama administration's, Energy Information Administration's own projections of oil production, and these were made before the leak in the Gulf and before the ban on drilling, they didn't come to the same conclusion that the president did, that we're running out of stuff. We have to go deeper because we don't have any of the stuff that we can get to more easily. So look at what they were projecting from 2010. This, by the way, is all in, it's not very long. You can read it in the web memo. Between 2010 and 2035, so in those 25 years, oil production in the U.S. would go up by 18%. Offshore oil production would go up by over 40%. Okay. And in those years, while we're producing the 57 billion barrels of oil between 2010 and 2035, our reserves also go up. And this, of course, is because of the way we count reserves. And it doesn't make sense to go look for and develop the sources of petroleum 30 years before you need it. What happens is, as we use it, all right, the price goes up a little bit perhaps, or we get technology that makes it cheaper to get to the deeper stuff. That's when we go find it. And it's been a historical pattern. We've seen that we produce huge amounts of petroleum and the reserves don't go down. And this is not just in the U.S., but worldwide.
First, there's a book on your table. We are mid-book tour right now, so we've got guys on the road everywhere. I'm actually running out to Atlanta as soon as this is over for an event tomorrow. But if you haven't seen, we've been kind of everywhere keeping up with this, but we're really excited about the book.
I think Tabitha and I and everybody on staff from the top down will be traveling a lot. We're sort of doing a book slash get out the vote training slash campaigning tour all the way leading up to Election Day. We're going to have a huge event in Jacksonville, Florida on November 2nd, hopefully to celebrate Marco Rubio's win. We've kind of already started that process from our first event in Brewster, New York the other day after our debut on the Today Show and some other media stuff we've been doing. So you'll probably see us out there on the road, meeting with people. We'll try to do our best to put the photos up, tweet it out, and let you guys know what's going on around the country.
Freedomworks has just published a new book on the Tea Party. What was the purpose of the book? What did you find out?
Well, through researching the Tea Party movement and working with these folks for the last couple of years, my bosses, Dick Armey and Matt Kibbe, put together this book to highlight kind of the narrative of how it got started, what these people believe in, what are the things that motivate them, and how are they making an impact in the debate, in politics, and culture, and in public policy. And what we found out was that they're making a huge impact, they're here to stay, they're mad at both parties, and they want to do this for the rest of their lives. They really are making an impact across the country, and they really do see themselves as saving the Republic.
There's a chapter in there about taking over the Republican Party. Why is that necessary?
Well, we live in a system where, as Saul Alinsky would teach us, you can't make up the rules are the way that they are. So we've got to basically go into the system and we have to take it in from within. So when you look at both political parties, there's one that has a platform that lines up pretty closely with what we believe, and there's one that doesn't at all. It's much easier to go in and beat the establishment within the Republican Party to take on the Democrats and beat them than it is to create a third party or to take over the Democrats. So when you're looking at how do we make the most effective strategy here, it's to take over the GOP. They say they believe in what we believe in. Let's make them live up to their own platform.
Now, the Tea Party isn't really led by any one group or individual. How has this group actually been able to be so effective?
It's sort of just willing volunteers coming together at the local level. You have different groups even at the local level. Then they get together at the state level and try to coordinate the best that they can. And then they do work with national groups like ours and other groups here in town and around the country, and we just try to kind of move in the same direction at the same time. It's a fiercely independent group. No one can tell them what to do. No one runs the Tea Party movement. No one person or one group funds it. But what you have is best ideas, best practices get out there across the country through the internet, and people sort of follow a good idea whichever way that it goes. So the best idea could come out of Houston, Texas, it could come out of Washington, D.C., or it could come out of Wasilla, Alaska. It doesn't matter. The point is that the whole movement may disagree on certain things, but when we agree to move in the same direction, we're very powerful.
Now, the mainstream media doesn't seem to be too pleased with the Tea Party. How has the Tea Party fared in terms of its media coverage?
You know, it's interesting. At first, the movement was ignored until it got so big that it couldn't be ignored, and then it was attacked, mostly by the left-wing media outlets. But what I started to see over the last 6 months to 8 months maybe, is that actually the mainstream media realizes that they sort of missed the story. So certain outlets like the Washington Post, the New York Times, the LA Times, they're kind of coming around and seeing this political phenomenon for what it is, and they're starting to write about it more. They're writing about it a little bit more fairly and objectively. You still have people who are on the attack at these institutions, but in general, they're starting to understand there's a huge market out there for the Tea Party movement because it's made up of literally millions of Americans across the country. So they would be really stupid and have a bad business model to consistently attack this movement going forward.
We're about 2.5 months away from a very important midterm election. How do you think the Tea Party is going to have an effect on that? What is Freedomworks going to do about it also?
Sure. Well, as a movement, we have to put our scarce resources of money, time, and effort into the races that we think we can make the biggest impact in. So as a movement, we all have disagreements on who the best candidates are, but there are candidates that I think everyone can come around. So you have people like Marco Rubio, you have Mike Lee in Utah, you have Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania. Those types of candidates are getting Tea Party movement support. They're getting support from Freedomworks PAC, from Senator DeMint, from the Club for Growth, all these organizations that are trying to take over this part of the GOP. We're trying to basically get the best candidates in. So there is some organization, there is some coordination in terms of who are the best candidates out there that we can get behind. That effort is very disorganized by its very nature. It's very decentralized. At the same time, people are very practical. The Tea Partiers understand that we have to go and get involved in fights that we can win. Congressional races, Senate races that are within that margin where we can make a big impact. So I think we're attacking the whole country, all the districts around the country, every state, very strategically, systematically, given the decentralized nature of the movement.
Any final thoughts about the Tea Party?
I think it's here to stay. I think that people understand that 2010 is the very beginning, that 2012 is sort of the first baby step, and they understand that we have to defend liberty for the next 100 years. They understand that they can't go back to yelling at the TV. Staying organized, staying involved, voting, running for local office, changing even the textbooks that are given to their kids in school. That's the kind of change that'll make an impact for the long term and will save the Republic.